Welcome everyone again to this virtual meetup. Thank you for joining. And just to introduce again, I am Arjun S. Meda from Automation Anywhere. And today we are going to talk about building faster with agentic orchestration. I'm going to brief you about what is agentic orchestration, how it is going to help you. But before that, I would like to introduce our expert speakers. We have Vineet Pujari, who's a senior product manager here at Automation Anywhere. Vineet, do you want to just say hi to our developers?
Hello, everybody. Excited to meet all of you today.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you just want to say one line which it'll help everybody to remember you? I know you're popular among our developers, but still one liner about how do you say anything about yourself?
When I'm not building bots or when I'm not building automations, I sell chocolates. So that's how you can remember me.
Awesome. Anybody who's interested in chocolates, feel free to reach out to Vineet. And we also have Devin Deshpande. He's our principal product manager here at Automation Anywhere. So Devin, do you want to say hi to our developers, please?
Hello, everyone. Great to be meeting you, seeing you. And again, when I'm not building automations, I am into percussion. So I play a lot of percussion instruments since last 30 odd years. So yeah, let's rock this.
Awesome. Thank you. So we may want to have such session as well sometimes, Devin. Let's plan for it. Okay. And we also have our Shreya Kumar. She's our technical community specialist. You may have interacted with her through our forums. Shreya, can you please say hi to our developers and say something about you?
Yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to the Dev Meetup. A fun fact about me is that I can say the word water in 18 languages. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. I never knew about this, Shreya. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. And how many of you can define agentic orchestration? What is your view about agentic orchestration or agentic process automation, what we are talking about with respect to Automation Anywhere? Can you just type out what do you think is, what do you understand about agentic orchestration? Let's take like 30 seconds. If you could type out the answers in the chat window, that would be great. I just want to see and understand what you guys think about this topic, and I'll share my version of the definition, and then we will get started from there. I'm just looking at my other monitor. That's why you will notice like if that I'm looking at somewhere else. So just to let you know. Okay, anybody wants to like write out what comes to your mind when you look at something like agentic orchestration? Okay, we have an answer called saying like cloud configuration. Let's see a couple of more responses. Create flows and make decisions. Great, thank you. AI agents, autonomous task execution by intelligent systems, less rule-based automation, more AI prompts, taking advantage of AI classification. Awesome. Thank you. So let me share my version of what I think about it. So it's all about coordination and management of multiple AI agents and automations working together autonomously to automate complex workflows. This is what I think about it. Just take a little while to kind of try to grasp what it means. In simple words, it consists of multiple components. Like it can have a lot of AI agents, a lot of agents. They're all like we are bringing them together to help you automate enterprise grade workflows. It can contain different triggers, different bots, agents, all working together with like live dashboards available for you to take a look at holistic view of what your automations are looking like. And before we deep dive into this one, I just want to let Shreya talk about our upcoming programs about the dev meetups. Shreya?
Thank you, Arjun. Yes. So Those of you who have attended dev meetups regularly will know this, but we have a dev meetup every month. And for the month of March, we have a virtual dev meetup on the 27th, and you can sign up for it by either scanning this QR code or clicking on the link that I sent in the chat that I will now send again. And we also have a special in-person meetup for the Bangalore folks, for folks who are in Bangalore. And you can sign up for that by going to our community and clicking on attend. And if you're interested in keeping updated with the dev meetups announcements and the dev meetups, what you should do is you should fill out the dev meetup technical sessions option in your community program interests in your profile. So this snippet, the screenshot over here, is from your profile. If you click on fill out your profile, at the very end, you'll have a question like community program interests that community programs that interest you, and you have to select developer meetups, and that's how we'll know that you should be contacted for dev meetups in future. So make sure you do that. And if you're attending this, thank you for attending this. And by joining us today, you will be entered to win one of 3 swag packs, and the winners will be notified via email. And you'll also see that we have our new Pathfinder t-shirt here. And if you want to know the official rules of the giveaway, you can do that by clicking on this link or by scanning this QR code. And
also, just to add on, you'll have to stay till the end of the session if you want to be eligible to get one of these swag packs as well.
yes, very important. You have to stay till the end. Okay, a few housekeeping rules. This meeting is going to be recorded, and the recording will be shared with all the attendees and all the registrants. And all the attendee lines in today's meeting will be muted. And if you want to submit any questions for our speakers, you can do so by going to the Q&A section of this meeting. And then use the chat for any audio or video related issues or anything else that you might want to communicate to us. But if you want to ask questions, please click on the Q&A tab only. And over to you, Arjun.
Okay, thank you. Before we get onto the topic, I have one more interesting slide. I'm sure most of you will be looking forward to it. We have AI training camp starting in April. So this is going to be for both developers and automation leaders. These are going to be 2 separate tracks. It's going to be like a 4-week program where we will have all the guidance about how do you take care of this. Just here is a glimpse of what we are going to cover in that training camp. More to follow, and the registrations will start soon. Once we have that registration link, we will also share that across with you. Okay. And then just a safe harbor slide, because we're going to show you live demos, which is already available on our platform. However, we are also going to share some glimpse about what's coming in the upcoming releases. So that's why if you are making any purchase decision, do not make that purchase decision just on the demos or any statements we are making here. Make sure you read through all the documents and then make your decision. So because some of the things which are forward-looking may change, and there is no guarantee about the exact dates being communicated. Okay. Coming back to the agenda, as I mentioned earlier, agentic orchestration consists of multiple components, which is all coming together to form that cohesive unit. That's what I have broken down here. We're going to talk about web triggers, like how do you use them, what is a connector builder, and how can you build one in just a couple of minutes. We'll also talk about how you can access real-time dashboards so that you get an entire holistic view of how your automations are performing. And then we'll take up Q&A at the end. However, when the speakers are showing you the details about these different features, you can also use the Q&A as Shreya mentioned earlier. And we have already covered the upcoming events and the courses. However, I will also show you some of the latest courses on our Automation Anywhere University portal if the time permits. So starting with the first topic, web triggers and connector builder. And Vineet, please, can you take over from here? Vineet, you're talking on mute.
Thank you for reminding Arjun. Thank you so much, Arjun. Hello, everyone. Today we are going to dive into the world of web triggers. Web triggers, that's a new word for most of you. You may be thinking, what are these web triggers even, right? Um, think of web triggers as the caffeine boost for your automation. They instantly kick off automations when specific events occur in your enterprise, right? Assume that there's an event happening somewhere in your enterprise. It could be Salesforce, ServiceNow, Outlook, GitHub, Jira, etc. Web triggers allow you to catch that event in real time, almost immediately, understand the event, and do some action on it. Like, imagine somebody creates a bug. A web trigger immediately catches that bug, understands that bug, and maybe even tries to solve it. But if it can't solve it, it can alert somebody that there is a bug and I have done the initial analysis, and you can take it forward from here. Right? So that's what web triggers are. Once again, they instantly kick off automations when specific events happen in your enterprise. Um, Thereby, they improve the efficiency and responsiveness of your automations, as we can see on the slide. You can use web triggers in bots today. You can also use them in API tasks, as I'm going to show you a demo today. You'll also be able to use them within your processes, your complex end-to-end processes going forward in a future release. Um, some of you must know there's something called event triggers on our platform already. There's email trigger, there's, hotkey trigger, etc. The difference between those triggers and web triggers are that web triggers listen to events on the cloud. Web triggers do not need a bot runner machine to listen to these events. That means you can free up your bot runner infrastructure to just run the automations and not to listen to automation. Right? So that's the power of web triggers. They are fast, they are real time, and they are independent of your bot runner infrastructure. We take care of listening to these events, and we deliver these events to the corresponding bots that you would like to run. And they are very, very easy to set up and govern. I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes how easy it is to build a web trigger and configure it. I will cover more of this in the demo, but first I want to get done with the slides. So we'll go to the next slide, connector builder. But I think we should get a poll at this point to just get your understanding of what do you think about web triggers and what is your opinion about event-based automation. So please take a look at the questions on your screen and please select an answer for both of these. The first question is, how many processes do you think need real-time processing in your organization? Is it a few? Is it 10 or 20? Is it more than 20? Or you don't have an idea? Pick one, it's very easy. And the second question is, what is the most challenging aspect of implementing these real-time event-based automations? Is it integration? Or is it configuring the right event? Or is it ensuring data and security? Or is it monitoring and maintenance and governance? We'll give you another 5 seconds to answer, and then we are going to flash the results on your screen. All right, Shreya, shall we flash the results? Okay, the first question, less than 10 processes. I think A and C, less than 10 or around 20. That's what most organizations need real-time processing. Okay, that's good. And the second question was about complexity or the challenges in implementing it. Most of you think it's integration with existing systems. All right, that's good finding for us. And I'm happy to inform you that we are solving the integration challenge very soon, in about less than a couple of months. So stay tuned for our upcoming product updates in our roadmap. Thank you, Shreya. All right, we are going to revisit Web Triggers demo in a few minutes from now, but before that, Connector Builder. How many of you are aware of Connector Builder? Can I see some hands or can I see some yes in the chat? Oh, there's quite a few. That's good to know. Connector Builder is a tool to create rapid integrations between Automation Anywhere and any other application that supports REST APIs. Right? You can build integrations in minutes. You can build them easily. You can build them faster. You can build them in a much simpler experience. So we will build a connector today. It's going to be a open source LLM connector. So I'm sure you'll be excited to build it yourself after the meetup today, because all you need for this is just the enterprise license in Automation Anywhere. Once you have the enterprise license in Automation Anywhere, rest of the things are open source. You can build these connectors free and you can start using them in your automations. All right, let's go to the demo then. I'm sure you're all excited to see some demos. For this, I think I'll share my screen. And before I do that, let me bring the right screen here. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Thank you. Right, so this is the use case that we are building today in this demo. I'm going to do the build as well and then demo the build as well. So what we are going to do, we are going to build an email assistant that works around the clock to detect new emails. And this assistant also understands the intent of the email and then takes some appropriate actions, right? It could be something like one of your vendors is sending you an email with a purchase order, right? But you don't know that it's an email containing a purchase order and you want to understand what needs to be done if it's a purchase order, right? So that's a task. That's one example. There could be many other examples that you can implement web triggers in your organization. One other example, interesting one that applies to all of your organizations is employee onboarding, right? All companies have folks joining in. So when a new employee is added to the HR system, you can configure a web trigger to automatically set up IT accounts for this employee and then automatically send a welcome email and then schedule orientation sessions and do so many more things to ensure a smooth onboarding process, right? So that's where web triggers can be really helpful for you. So in this demo, what we'll do is, in order to understand the intent of the email, we need generative AI, right? We need an LLM. And I know that LLMs don't come for free, but in today's demo, I'm going to show you a way in which you can use LLM for free to an extent, right? And then first, what we'll do is we'll first create an LLM connector using Connector Builder. We'll then use that connector in our API task to detect the intent of the email, right? That's the first step we are going to do. Then second step is, while we are building the API task, I'll also show you how do we configure web triggers in it. We are going to configure a Outlook 365 web trigger to listen to new emails, to listen to a specific inbox, to listen to a specific mailbox, right? So that's what we are going to configure. And then we'll set it up all together in the event triggers page where we create a subscription to the Outlook 365 mailbox. And then we are going to send a few emails to see how our automation works, right? So that's what we are going to do over the next 20 to 30 minutes. Are you guys ready? Okay, I can see a couple of hands here. Great. All right, so first is we are going to build an open source LLM connector. I hope you can see my control room. And here, the permission that you need is create/edit custom connector packages. So you need to assign yourself this permission first and foremost in order to proceed to build the connector. Now, once you have this connector, and of course, once you, if your control room has the enterprise license, you can then navigate to manage packages, and you will see this option called create connector, right? Now we click on it and then we say, we are going to build an NVIDIA AI connector today, right? And before I click create and edit, let me quickly switch over to the NVIDIA portal. NVIDIA, who are generous enough to give to host most of these open source LLMs, and you can use you can create an account with NVIDIA and start leveraging these open source models for free, um, starting today, right? So all you need to do is go to build.nvidia.com, right? Build.nvidia.com, and then you'll see a bunch of LLMs that are displayed here in the catalog. I am interested in an LLM called Llama 3.1405B Instruct, because this is an advanced LLM for generating data, understanding user queries, and then it also knows a bit of coding, and it also can do some domain specific tasks. So I think this is a good LLM for us to start with. All you need to do is click on that model, and then once you have created an account, you'll see something like this. You'll see your email, you'll see how many credits are left, and then you'll also be able to see this get API key. So the moment you click on get API key, your API key will be displayed, and you can start using that API key until you consume all of your credits. I had 1,000 credits. I've used it like for a couple of days now, and I've just burnt 5 credits, which is great, right? For a proof of concept or for playing around with LLMs, this is a great. So thank you, NVIDIA, for being so generous. So next, once you get this API key, right, all you need to do is um, you can go to this docs.api.nvidia.com, right? You can understand how this model works, only if you're interested, how this model works. And you can also uh, use the sample API requests and responses here to understand what kind of request needs to go inside the LLM and what kind of response you can expect from the LLM, right? So this is where you can learn all of that. It's good for learning. Then what I did was, let me switch over to screen here. All right. So what I did was I downloaded this. Um, I downloaded this Postman collection, which is available open source, right? This is an open source information. What this Postman collection contains is a bunch of all the models that you see on the NVIDIA portal just now. All the models have been collected, summarized in the form of this Postman collection. And why do I have this? Because I want to directly use this Postman collection to build my connector. I want to take the shortcut. I don't want to take the pain of going through NVIDIA docs portal, navigating to the right model, to the right endpoint, copy paste the endpoint, copy paste the request, response, headers, parameters, all of that. I don't want to do that. That's the old fashioned way of building stuff. But what I'm going to do is I have downloaded this NVIDIA Postman collection. I'm just going to feed this file to my connector builder, and then I'll show you the magic. Okay, so let's go back to our connector builder, right? This is where we were. I just gave the name. I'll leave this blank and this blank because they will be auto-populated with the information available in the Postman collection, right? So I'll click create. And this is where, this is called the connector editor, right? This is where you can build your connector manually by clicking on, add actions here. But we are going to import the Postman file, like we said. So I'll click on this import API definition, click Postman collection, browse, and select the file that I have downloaded here, right? So this is the file, NVIDIA Postman collection. And then I'm going to click import. There we go. it has imported 27 endpoints, all of them belonging to different, either different vendors or different model of the same vendor, right? You have Llama, you have Nemotron, you have Gemma, um, you have Code Llama, you have Mistral, you have Snowflake, you have Stability AI, so many open source LLMs to play with. The best thing is you can play with all of these for free today, right? Until you consume your credits. All right. Now in this, I can choose to keep all of these, or I can choose to delete some of these, the ones that I don't want, but it depends on you. You can keep all of them and go ahead. Remember, we are going to use this model to detect the intent of the email, right? So this model is called Llama 3.1, 405 billion instruct, right? And let's take a look at this action for a second. So this action is for chat completions. And then if I go to the parameters, there's no parameter here. If I go to headers, there's no header. If I go to request body, connector builder has imported this request body from the Postman file. And if we go here, you'll see that there's messages here that says you can send in a query, user query to the model, and then you can actually test the response right here in the test tab, right? But all that you'd need to do first is provide your API key to the model. Otherwise, it won't run, right? To provide your API key, what we'll do is we will toggle this authentication action. What that does is it brought this action called authentication. I go ahead and select API key based authentication because that's what I've got from NVIDIA. And NVIDIA documentation tells me that I must pass that API key as an authorization header with a bearer prefix. So that's what I'm going to do here. What this does is connector builder automatically includes this header in rest of these actions. You don't have to go to individual actions and add that header for each one of them, right? So that's one less thing to do for you. Now let's go to this test tab. As you can see now, the authorization header has come up here. Now I'm going to select this, add my token here, followed by bearer. This is the API key that I got from NVIDIA. I'm going to change it after the meetup today, but those of you who are trying it right now, good luck. Let me test this operation. The query that I'm sending is, what is the purpose of life in India? Interesting. Let's see what it says. Okay, there is a problem, 404. I know what the problem is. The problem is that I must add the V1 version of the API here. So nvidia.com/V1, because that's the version of the endpoints that we are using. So we'll go back to our test tab and then we'll hit test again and wait for the LLM to give us a response. Remember, our query was, what is the purpose of life? And in this case, life in India. Let's see what it says. And you guys can try it for your own countries when you try this out. Oh, great, we have a 200 response. That's a good start. And what's the response? It says, what a profound and complex question. The purpose of life in India is a deeply philosophical and spiritual concept, and so on, right? It has multiple lines. I'm not going to read it, but it's doing a pretty good job in understanding my question and bringing a very accurate answer, right? I'm just going to see if there's any questions on the chat at this point.
Yeah, I think there's one in the chat which I think Kyle is asking, can you retrieve the API key from a credential?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Kyle. The answer to that question is yes. You can save your API key in the credential vault. And as I'll show you, you can refer to that credential in the bot using one of the variables. Yeah. Here in the connector builder, we just kept it like a free text field because this is a test bed for you, right? This is a testing environment where we wanted to give you an experience like Postman-like experience where you can just paste the key and then try and understand the model, how it works. All right. So what we've just proven is we've created a connector with a bunch of open source LLMs, and we've tested this Llama 3.1 model, and it is working pretty great. And we did not spend anything so far. Everything is free, open source, so that's great. I'm happy with it. If I want, I can test some of these other endpoints, but I'll skip that for today. Next, before I publish this connector, I can also add an icon, because I don't like this icon here. It's just a generic icon. So I have downloaded the icon from NVIDIA portal again. Here's the NVIDIA logo. So I'm gonna browse and select it. There you go. That's how these icons appear. It looks pretty slick right now, right? NVIDIA with the logo of NVIDIA, right? So that's great. I'm going to save it. I'm going to close this. And next, what I'll do is I'll just click here and say publish. And when I publish, all of the actions inside of this connector will get packaged, and then it'll get published as a connector package. And if I just refresh this, it disappeared. Don't worry, it disappeared from that tab, but it appears here. There you go. This is our connector that we just published. It has 24 actions because we deleted 3. And then now we are good to use this connector in any of our automation tasks. Could be a bot task or could be an API task. Let me quickly pause here and see if there's any additional questions, Shreya.
Yes, so there are 3. Sergio is asking, how is the Postman collection generated? How do we get it? And then Rahul is asking, can it maintain the history? If we go on asking series of dependent questions, will it identify it?
Okay, let me take the Postman question first, because that came first. So Postman collection, how do you get it? Postman is also a generous community. They make all of these Postman collections available as open source material. All you need to do is go to postman.com and go to just search for NVIDIA API, right? And okay, let me quickly sign in. All you need to do is go to postman.com and then, or you can just Google search Postman or NVIDIA AI collection. Yeah, there you go. The first result that comes up when you do this Google search is the NVIDIA AI Postman collection. So you can just download it, save it to your local drive and start using it to build your connector. There was another question, right, Shreya, about.
So Rahul is asking, can it
Amazing.
maintain the history? And if we go on asking series of dependent questions, will it identify it?
That's a good question. We are building this connector for a very specific use case right now, which is an email assistant that constantly scans your mailbox and takes actions on them. We have a very powerful feature called AI Agent Studio. You should definitely check that out. In that AI Agent Studio, you can call all of these LLMs, and then you can prompt it, and then you can fine tune your prompts. And I believe there you have the option that allows the model to remember your context. And then every time you ask a second question, it remembers the context from the previous interaction, and then it gives you a more holistic answer. Any other questions?
Yeah, an anonymous user is asking, can I access AI Agent Studio in NFR instance? And there's another one which came first. Theo was asking, genuine question, how does that work if we use our own LLM in Azure AI? LMM, I'm assuming it's LLM, yeah, in Azure AI.
Okay, how does it work if your LLM is hosted on Azure AI? If that's the question, or it works just like this. You just need to point this connector to your LLM hosted on Azure infrastructure, all that you need to do is remember where we gave the base URL path, which was NVIDIA slash llama slash something. You just need to point that base URL to your LLM, which is hosted in either your VPC or your on-premise, and you can build the connector just like this.
Okay. And the other question was, can I access AI Agent Studio in NFR instance?
Uh, um, uh, Deven or Arjun, do you know what is NFR instance?
Not sure. Probably we can take that offline if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, we'll definitely take that offline. Any other ones, Shreya?
Yeah. Is it possible to customize the action names in the package?
Absolutely, it is possible to do that. Let me quickly edit the connector. When you edit it, it'll come back in this view, and then you can actually click on this edit action, and then you can get rid of this complex name. You can just say chat with Meta Llama, something like that. You can name the action here, and you can give a description as well, something like um, so what happens is this description appears as the help text under this action name when you drag and drop it in your bot, right? That's what it means. You can also, disable some of these actions if you don't like them. You can copy an action to to build another action on top of it, and all those things are possible.
Okay, there's one more question. In addition to API key from credentials, can we handle multi-factor authentication as well?
Okay. I think the answer to that is no. Using a connector builder, um because connector builder is meant more for machine to machine interaction. Like your bot is trying to automate something, call an LLM, get the response back, and then feed the response to the next step. So this is more meant for a machine to machine interaction. Whereas I understand MFA is more like multi-factor authentication, where you have more than one means to authenticate with your service provider. And you need a human in the loop to provide the second factor of authentication. I may be wrong, but I can definitely get back with a more accurate answer, more intelligent answer on this.
And there's one more. Sridhar is asking, can we have a test environment to start creating connectors?
Uh, sure, we'd love to do that. We are working on that. Arjun and team is actually planning that. So stay tuned. We may have just what you're asking for in the next couple of months.
Awesome. Do you want to take more questions? Well,
Yeah, we can take one last, and then
okay.
we'll continue with the demo.
Do you have the capability for conditionals in Connector Builder? For example, if I'm on the test control room, then the API endpoint is the test API. If production control room, then the URL is pointing to production.
Yeah, great question. That's a very, very practical question. Remember here, this is where we give the base URL. We are not hard coding it. This will appear as a free text box when you drag and drop this action inside of your bot. So using the same connector, you can point it to a dev environment, can point it to a test environment, or you can point it to the production environment. Yeah, great question. All right, so let's continue with the demo. We've built our connector. Thank you, Shreya, for the questions. We've built our connector, and then what we are going to do now is we are going to build, first, we are going to show a couple of web triggers to you, the ones that are available today. Um, so All right. So what I have here is an API task. I've created an API task, and the name of the API task is Web Triggers Inside API Task. And if I expand the triggers section, now you have all of these web triggers with you, right? You have GitHub, you have Google Calendar, Jira, Office 365, Outlook, and ServiceNow. In today's demo, we are going to configure the Outlook trigger. You just drag and drop it, and then you select one of these events that you want to listen to. In our case, we want to listen to the new email arrives event. And then we are going to give an email address where we'll be receiving emails, right? So that's the email, that's the mailbox. And what folder do we want to monitor? We can monitor the inbox. We can monitor, you know, a subfolder under inbox like that, or we can monitor one more subfolder under it like that, right? So all of that is possible. And then you would need an authentication, right? This authentication is needed to connect to this mailbox, right? Using that authentication and this mailbox, we go ahead and create a subscription on that mailbox for this rule, which is whenever a new email comes to the inbox folder, we want to listen to that email and we want to do something on it, right? So that's how you configure web triggers. Very simple. You are accustomed to configuring these all the time. So very simple. The next field here is certificate, right? What is this certificate? This certificate will be used after your email arrives and when you want to pass that information to the bot. The information is usually encrypted, right? Then what you'll do is you'll use the certificate, which you can store in the credential. You'll use that certificate to decrypt the incoming event data. And by decrypting, you will be able to know, what's the subject, what's the email body, does it have any attachments or not, and all that stuff, right? So that's the reason of this field. So that's how you configure. And then once you configure that, you'll basically proceed to the next steps of the demo, which is, let me quickly flash that screen. So we are done with the first step here, right? First step. Now we are doing the second step, and then we'll go to the third step. So let's do the second step right now. Um, I'm going to cancel this. I already have a pre-built API task to save time. This is the pre-built API task. And as you can see here, the first section is Outlook 365 trigger. This is exactly how I've configured it. OAuth connection is stored, is retrieved from the credential vault. So is the certificate. And when the email actually comes, what do I want to do? I want to do a couple of things. I want to first process the email and get attachments if they're there. Second, save the attachments to OneDrive. Third, I want to detect the sentiment and intent of that email. And then I may want to, place an order for purchase order, right? I want to place an order in an ordering system, like an ERP system, to fulfill the customer's request, which is by placing an order. And finally, I disconnect from the Outlook and the OneDrive sessions because I had established a connection here, right? That's simple. All right. Now, this is how you build an API task with web triggers, right? And once you've built it, what you would do is you would check that API task in, right? You would check that API task in. It would go into your public repository like that, right? And then what you do is you would go to manage. You would go to manage event triggers, and then you would set up that API task here. Let me do that once again. Let me delete this. So we are done with the first two steps now. We have created a connector, we have created an API task with web triggers in it. We are doing the third step now, which is set up the subscription. And to do that, you go to manage event triggers, then click on this little plus sign here, click on choose, and that's the API task we want to choose. Save Outlook attachments to OneDrive, right? Then We go next, we leave this as it is, and then we click on add event triggers. What happened just now is in the last 1 second, we use the authentication information provided in the trigger, and we created a subscription with the Outlook mailbox. Which mailbox? The dev.test, that mailbox. This one right here, dev.test@automationanywhere.store. So anytime a new email arrives on this mailbox, the expectation is the API task will automatically run and it will do all of the steps that were defined in it. The steps like check if there's an attachment, move that attachment to OneDrive, understand the intent, and place the order and so forth, right? Let's see the demo then, right? To see the final demo, I'm going to send an email, right? So this is an email, this is this Outlook. What I'm going to do is I have an email prepared here. So the email says, Dear ABC company, I hope this message finds you well, and we want to place purchase order. That's what it says. I know that's the intent, but let's test the machine out and see if it detects the attachment and the intent, right? Now, I will type in the same mailbox here so that we receive the email here. And before I hit send, I want to show you two things in parallel. I want to go to this activity in progress and bring this on the left side. Bring this to the left. Yeah. So right now there's no activity in progress, right? But the moment I hit send, you should see an activity here, and you will also see that a new, the attachment from the email will be saved in this OneDrive location, right? So that's what we are going to test now. Let me hit send now. I hit send. As you can see, the email has arrived in the mailbox here. And if I just refresh this, you see there's an API task which has started to execute already. That's pretty fast if you ask me. And then it is currently executing line 6 of 13. It's done. Execution is complete. If we go back and check the history, it has completed all of the steps. Line 13 of 13 completed. You can ignore this one. And then if I go to the OneDrive location and refresh the page, you see this is the attachment from the email that has automatically come up in this OneDrive location, right? And the API task has also understood the intent that it's a purchase order. It has gone and placed the order in the order management system, etc., all of that. But the idea here is you can use API tasks and a combination of web triggers, connector builder to achieve such end-to-end automations, right? You can monitor your mailboxes for any new incoming emails, take an action on them almost immediately. So that saves a lot of time for a lot of critical business processes. I think with that, my demo is done. I can take questions now or later based on the time available, Shreya.
I think we can take more questions later because
Sure,
we only have a few minutes left.
sure.
Okay. If there's time left, we can answer more questions. And please do ask your questions in the Q&A tab because it helps us keep a track of the questions that are coming in. So thank you. All right, so we're handing over to Devin, who is going
Thanks,
to.
Shreya. Can you bring up the slides, please? You are Arjun.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. Let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yes, Tini, the recording will be shared post the session. Okay. And thanks, Vineet, for the demo. Super, man. Web triggers and the connector builders. Absolutely a caffeine boost or whatever nitro boost for the developer community to build packages. We would now move on to observability. Now, this term is buzzing quite a lot in the present kind of technological environments. For A360, what this means is for A360's control room, you should have a complete insight into the automations which are getting executed into your automation landscape. Not only the insights, but you should be notified about the events that are happening. You should be able to report out on some of the data. You should be able to export out as PDFs. You should be able to export out as in the CSV format. And you should have a complete tab or control on the various entities, be it automations or be it devices, be it licenses, and so on and so forth. This slide talks about the monitoring dashboard. So this is a new dashboard that we have introduced in 35. With monitoring dashboard, what this means is you are proactively notified about the automations in your RP landscape, and there are filters by which you can basically display those automations and then report out. Okay, we will see a demo of this. So Arjun, if you can please stop sharing, I can show them the monitoring dashboard. Okay, I presume you are able to see the screen, Arjun?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now, the home screen normally is quite passable. For home screens, you get into the overview. You do see that there are some automations which are getting executed. There are some queue automations. There may be some API tasks. There is a license utilization. But what we are attempting is to have a cleaner interface for the home screen. Just having few tabs, and even we are going to have only the absolute necessary tabs out here. One of the tabs which has been recently introduced is the monitoring dashboard. And what this means is, and if there were automations playing, you should be able to see the automations getting flashed up. This widgets actually flash up when the automations their state changes. When the automation is in progress, the in progress screen, it flashes up. When any automation is in waiting, the waiting widget flashes up. So there is a clean bifurcation of the automation executions across these smart filters. I would explain some of the filters that we have used. Now, in progress is whether the automation is in progress, started, or active. Now, why these smart filters? Because each of those entities right now, each of these entities may have got various statuses or stata. When we have task bots, they may have something called as in progress. When we have got API tasks, they may be active. When we have process, they may be started. Down the line, we may have AI agents, which may have got some different status. What we want is we should have a filter which can basically filter out all these sub statuses into one common bucket. Let's take a filter of failed. It has got various sub filters like failed and stopped and timeout and deploy failed, unknown. You should be able to categorize all those filters into a common bucket as failed. Right now, these are all static, but down the line, you should be able to provide your own custom filters. Down the line, you should be able to provide your own custom filters to be displayed onto your monitoring dashboard. Once you have your custom filters, you can export this data out, export filter items. So once you say export filter items, it's going to have a CSV getting presented to you. And then once you have the CSV, you can very well export the CSV. And the CSV is in this format. It has got all the key entities that you need to export out. The automation name. This pod is basically your testing pod. So you may see one of the automations getting repeated quite frequently. But what are the key entities that you will be able to filter out? So first is automation name. Second one is repo path, the repository path, the complete repository path for the automation. The third is the device name. Fourth is start and then end time, start time and end time. But more importantly, you want the duration. And right now this is in milliseconds. So this then you can basically translate that into seconds. The next is status. What status was the automation getting, whether it was completed or failed. The username. The username is basically the run as user against which the automation got processed. And this is extremely crucial for the license dashboard, which I'll be showing in the next few minutes. The next is the licenses. So either runtime or development or RE. Right now, this may be runtime. But if you are a developer and if you are running the automations even in your private workspace, the table will get reflected. The next one is execution type. So either it's a schedule bot, it's a run now bot, or it's a automation which you have triggered via APIs. This table is going to tell you. And then the last is failure reason. The last is a failure reason as to what failure did the automation encounter during its processing. Okay, so monitoring dashboard, it's a single kind of pane of glass which you can display onto your screens to have a status of automations to be displayed. The widgets will flash up when any event changes. You can filter out on the widgets, and then the list is paginated. So you can also have a complete traversal across all your automations. You can basically also drill down into automation. So once you click activity name, if the activity is complete, that's fine, but you can also rerun the automations from this window. You can also rerun from this window. So that's the monitoring dashboard for you. There are some things which are going to come up in this dashboard. So what are the key things which are going to come up? First is we are going to have a functionality for trend charts. So on this, right now the widgets may be clickable widgets just showing the numbers. But down the line, you should also be having trend charts, which should show you that in the last 6 hours, how have the trend of the automations been? If it has been 124 failed, how has been the trend been? Is the trend on the rise, or is the trend on the increase or decrease? If it's a trend on the rise, you should be able to take actions as to why more and more automations are getting failed. In the future versions, you should also be able to have for the automations which are failed. Definitely, it is going to show you a failure reason. But in the future versions, we are also going to have a agentic based handholding. That given a failure, the AI assistant should be able to tell you. Now, AI assistants are going to get built over our documentation. They are going to get built over the articles which are there in the Pathfinder development community. Those agents are going to tell you that, for that failure reason, what exactly are the steps that you should be taking as a developer so as to mitigate those failures. Or if you are a L2 operations executive, it's going to tell you that, for this failure reason, what are the root cause analysis? A simple thing is if you are automating FTPs and then you get a failure that unable to put the file, then that assistant is going to tell you that what are some of the reasons. Like you can check whether the folder has got the right access, or you can check whether the user has got the proper permissions to put the folder into the FTP, and so on and so forth. But there could be complex failures. And if for that complex failures, our AI assistant will go into the articles which are there in the developer forum, and then they are going to suggest the right article for you as a developer, where you can go and check as to how to mitigate those failures. One more feature that we are working on is the reporting feature. Reporting is basically the data plus schedule plus the user. Right now, we are only exporting the data. You can export out the data to the CSV format. In some of the other tabs, you can export to a PDF format. But in the future versions, you should also be able to report out the data at a particular at a particular time. Say if you want to have a report, say 7 p.m. every day, the close of business, or if you want to have a combined report, monthly report at the end of the business day of the month, you should be able to do that in the future versions. and whom the report should be sent out to. So the report will have basically three main entities: the export to CSV, the schedule, and then whom should the report be sent out to. So this is about the monitoring dashboard. It is just the V1 or MVP of the monitoring dashboard. It's getting developed as we speak, and you should have a more enhanced versions in the A360 versions to come. The next is the automations dashboard. Automations dashboard is something you may have had a look in your automation landscape as well. Because this is a test control room, a lot of automations activity happens on this control room. The automations tab has been brought in as the tab on the at a higher level. In the earlier versions, the automations tab was somewhere hidden within the operations, but now it has been brought to a higher level. You should be able to see all the automations in the last 7 days or 30 days, 60 days, and so on and so forth. You should be able to get the number, how many completed, how many failed, how many automations in the future date. So this is more of futuristic looking, that for the next 24 hours, no schedule. In the next 7 days, no schedules. Normally the automations here are run now. And you should be able to also report out. So again, export out this data into either a PDF format or into a CSV format. So the whole data you should be able to export out into the PDF format. For the CSV format, the tables, all the tables which are there on this screen, they get reported out as different as a CSV format. We will see some of the widgets on this screen. So automation status, again, the status of completed and failed, the total automation run hours in the last 90 days. So you can see a trend of the automation run hours in the last 90 days or 30 days, if in this case. Some of the tables which are interesting for automation admins or leads are, what are the most running automations? What are your automations which are giving you the most bang for buck? This control room, again, because it's a test control room, some of the automations, they run quite frequently. The sanity automations, they run frequently. They are running these in the last 30 days. This automation has run about 20,000 times. In the future versions, we are also going to extend this to the duration. Say this automation, this has ran about this many number of times, but what is the combined number of run hours which this automation has ran? So you not only have the number of times, but you should also be able to have the run hours against this automation. Now, run hours are extremely critical because you may want to put a price on the hourly rate for this automation. Normally, the FTEs, they also, if there are contract FTEs or contract workers, there also the work is categorized or basically measured in terms of hours. In the future versions, you should also be able to have an hourly, duration hours for this automation. We are going to improve on this widget, but for now you have got the run counts. You can put a price on the run count. In the future versions, you should also have a run hours. You should have the complete table of this automation. So right now, this is the table. If there were more number of automations, right now there are only these many number of automations which have been executed. If there are more number, then you should also have a paginated list. In 37, in A360.37, all the tables wherever we have in the automation command center, they are going to get exported as CSV. So this is something which you are working on right now. All these tables you should be able to export out as CSV. Okay. So there are various tabs. So either it is the most running or longest running. So you want to check as to what are the automations which have ran the longest, whether these are actually the longest running or whether they are outliers, something which the AI agent should be able to tell you in the future versions. But right now you should be able to tell that, okay, for this automation, this is the longest running. It ran for 43 minutes, 12 seconds. This automation actually ran for 8 hours, 22 minutes, and so on and so forth. What are the most failures? So these are the most failures for these automations. And again, the AI-based assistant in the future versions, it's going to tell you that if this was the failure that Notepad application was not running. Now, this is a very simple failure. But if the failures are complex, the assistant is going to actually dig into either the docs or into the article, and it's going to tell you the actual reason as to how to mitigate those failures in the first place. The automation execution. So what are all the automation executions that happened in the past? So for each of the automation, you should be able to get the execution results in the past, whatever amount of time that that has been executed in this dashboard. You should also be able to export out this table into a CSV file. What are the automations in the private workspace? So again, if you are a automation creator and if you have in the last 30 days, and again, this number could be very high in your automation landscape, all the automations that as a private, in the private workspace, when you are developing, when you have ran these automations in the private workspace, they should be able to tell you as to how many automations have been completed, how many automations have failed. Now, as an admin, why is this number useful? As an admin, this number is useful for me so as to gauge the activity of the automation creators in the development environment. This number should be high enough, because if you have got few developers or even few tens of developers, you should be able to know their level of activity. How many automations they are building. If they are building, they must be definitely running that in the private workspace. How many of them are completed or failed? That is probably left to the developers, because some of the automations may be still in the nascent phases, but you should have a good amount of combined number for this. You should have a number for the run count. So how many automations in the private workspace they have been executed? What are the run counts? Again, this is a paginated list, and in 37 you should be able to export out this private automations into a CSV file for reporting purposes. So that is the basic data for the private automations. What are the run details? So this gives a complete list of all the run details in the private workspace. Again, a paginated list. So for all the automations, who ran that automation. Again, the person who is running the automation has got the handle to the automation. Either the person has created the automation or person has checked out the automation for editing purposes and is running the automation. But you have complete trace of all the automations that are running in the private workspace. Okay, I am going to skip directly in the interest of time to the devices tab. API tasks, right now, there are not many API tasks, but again, if there are API tasks, again, we need to show a demo of the API tasks. But if there are many number of API tasks, you should be able to see all the API tasks which are getting executed in your automation landscape. Devices, again, it gives a picture of the devices in your automation landscape in the time frame that you choose. So in the last 30 days, right now, this snapshot is the current snapshot. 3 are online, 92 offline. But in the last 30 days, how has been the utilization? This may be a case where the many of the bots are running on the cloud. So some of the bots are running on the cloud. So this is a physical device, but some of the devices are on cloud, the API tasks especially. But more importantly, should be able to get an idea of the most used devices. What are the devices which are getting which are your workhorses? And then in 37, you should be able to export out those devices into a CSV format. You should be able to get the device utilization details, like this device is getting utilized about 56.71% of time across its running hourly window. Okay, and for the device details, you should be able to know what are the executions that are getting played out on the devices. So again, these tables are basically they are different flavors of presenting an information and having a one pivot point. So for this device, what is the automation name? And you have a complete list of that. You should also be able to export that in 37. And some of the devices which for where the update is required. So for this device, the update is required, and you may want to update that devices. Some of the wizards are clickable. So this wizard is clickable, and when you click on that, it's going to directly take you to the devices tab, where you can go and update the devices, or you can check as to what all devices are disconnected. Okay, last but not the least is the licenses dashboard. Now, many customers and many of you, you gave your feedback that, you do have A360 licenses, but how are the licenses getting consumed? What is the measure of that? So in 36 now, we are going to have a licenses dashboard where you should be able to know that what users are making good use of licenses, but more importantly, what users are not using the licenses. So in this pod, in this control room, there are the users who are not making use of licenses, but at least the licenses are categorized into 4 clean buckets. What are the categories? First is licenses which are not used. Okay, and when I say not used, when I click on that, it's going to give me the list of the users who are not using the licenses. And unattended licenses, they come at a cost. So you may want to check especially the admins and the leads. You may want to check with those users that in the last 30 days, you have not used the licenses. What is the issue? Why are you not making use of the licenses? These are the licenses which are not getting used. So this kind of orangish color is the unattended color, and this bluish or purple color is the attended distribution. So these all attended users or attended licenses, these users are not using the licenses. Again, attended is something where you are physically going and running the bots on your machines. But these licenses are not used. Similarly, these are the licenses which are used, but on an extremely minuscule basis. Some of these licenses, they are used on an average 0.95 hours per day, which is not a good usage. In 24 hours, if you are using for 0.95 hours, you are not making use of the unattended licenses. Okay, and you should be able to export this table into a CSV format. Similarly, for attended, you can get the data for attended. Okay, for the licenses which are used between 1 to 4 hours per day. So this is the average out of between 1 to 4 hours per day. So these are the users who are making use of the licenses. On an average, they are on the usage front, they are okay. They are still okay. They may want to use the licenses even better, but still they are okay. They are making some use of the licenses, and these are the users who are making good use of the licenses. For this user, the automation is running on an average 7.66 hours per day, which is a fair amount of license usage. For 36, this categories may be fixed, but in the future versions, you can have your own categories on the license dashboard. You should have a trend of licenses. So in the last 30 days, how has the licenses trend been? So the activity was pretty high during the month of some of the Jan third weeks or so. In February, again in the second week of February, the activity was high. Then in the Jan of end of Jan or February first week, there was not much of activity. The third widget tells you the allocation of licenses. Now, this is basically the allocation of licenses. So how are the licenses getting allocated? So for Copilot business users, you have allocated 54 licenses. There are still 946 licenses available for you to be allocated. When it comes to bot creators, 69 licenses have been assigned, but 931 are still available for allocation, and so on and so forth. But license utilization also goes and checks for document automation. Right now, there are no licenses for docs form pages which are used in the current CR. But for document extraction, there are 344 pages which are being consumed, but still 656 pages are available to be consumed. For API tasks, again, there is a breakup of the task API task consumption. What is the task overage? What are the number of executions? Or what is the API task overage? What are the number of concurrencies, the API tasks which are getting executed onto your environment? Last but not the least is the bot creator usage. Now, I talked about the bot creator activity in the automations page, but you also want to measure out as to how your bot creators are using the control room. how many users in the last 30 days have logged in? This user has logged in 102 times. So this user has got good enough activity. This user has got 86 new automations, so which is good. 0 check-ins and 0 checkouts. Basically, this user is just creating the automations, no check-ins and checkouts. But if you report out this into a table, you can then filter, you can then sort out depending on logins. Okay, depending on the new automations, which are the automations which are created, sorted by numbers, which are the check-ins and which are the checkouts, because this is a more of a test control room. There may not be more check-ins and checkouts, but at least this gives an idea of the bot creator usage on the pod. More importantly, if you see here, if there are no logins or no new automations for a user, you may want to check with that user. Again, this table will be exported out in 37. You may want to check with the user as to why with the bot creator license, the activity is not that much. So with this, I'm going to come to an end to my presentation. So new tabs, just to summarize, new tabs, the monitoring tab, the automations tab, and the licenses tab is something which is available in 35 and 36 versions. And Shreya, you may want to just put the poll questions for some amount of time. The first question and the second question. I would like to understand as to how you are getting the metrics from A360. And there are three options right now on the screen, that you are using the A360 dashboards, or you have built your own dashboards, or you make use of the A360 APIs. If you can click one of the options, it would be helpful for you. You got about 30 seconds for this, please. Okay, Shreya, can we see the results? Okay, so good to know that you are using the A360 dashboards. Again, we are improving the observability. And of course, we have got the COE manager as well. So in one of the sessions, you can also get a in-depth view of the COE manager, which has the business insights. Also, you have your own dashboard. That's good. For all the widgets that we have the APIs, and you can also build your own dashboards, be it on Tableau or Power BI and so on and so forth. And definitely you make use of the A360 APIs. That's good to know. Again, with the connector builders, if you want to automate some of the APIs as well, you can very well do that. Shreya, can you also bring up the second question, which I would like to know, that if there are any more improvements that you would like to see in the A360 dashboards, what would those be? You can type out some of the bullet points that you may want to, have those features in the A360's observability page. We would really love to hear your feedback on this, please. So Shreya, if you can keep this for a minute so that the people can type in the responses. Again, it could be anything that you would like to see, like the ROI, the TCOs, the FTs saved. I would take them forward to even the COE's product manager, who is also building some of the business dashboard out here. If you want to see any dashboards for device calendars, or what is the forecast for the device up times, down times, put into those. If you want to see anything like customizable widgets, if you want to bring in your own widgets into this dashboard, you can put that as well. If you want to build your own charts as well, customizable charts, feel free to let us know.
Devin, there's also a question from Abdul who says, are the dashboard data different per control room? like dev, prod, UAT?
Yes. The dashboard data right now is different for control rooms, but that is a very good question. In the future versions, what we are planning is we are going to have something called as an Uber dashboard. What this means is you would be having a kind of primary control room, and then from that primary control room, you should be able to pull data across the other control rooms. You can make your dev control room as a primary control room, or even the prod control room as a primary control room, and you should be able to pull the data from the other control rooms so as to see that on your Uber dashboard. On A360's dashboard, you can pull the data and you should be able to see that. If you're making use of the APIs, you should be able to display that onto your Uber dashboard as well. Absolutely. Okay, I think Shreya, you can end the poll, and me and Vineet will be happy to take the questions on the chat, please.
Yes, so there's a question in the chat saying, that'll also come on camera. Where can we check whether the automation has been started at the scheduled time?
That is in the scheduled. That is in the scheduled page. That is the scheduled page where you can see whether the automation has been started on the scheduled time. At the same time, there is also something called as historical. So activity historical. Those are the pages where you should be able to know when the schedule was actually triggered. But I think more importantly, your question would be that if the schedule is getting misfired, how can you be notified? So we are definitely working towards a framework where if any anomaly happens, where the schedule is getting misfired, you should be able to get notified on not only the notifications, but also on emails, and definitely on the monitoring dashboard going forward, that if the schedule has misfired, you should be able to that should be brought over on the monitoring dashboard, and what corrective actions you should be able to take, whether you want to rerun the schedule, or if there are any anomalies in your platform, like if in the platform health, if there are any services that are not working properly, they should be able to bubble up as part of the platform health dashboard, which is going to come up as part of the future versions.
Okay, and this question is for Vineet, I think. How can I get the Outlook web trigger package for using it in an API task?
Sure. The Outlook web trigger packages are already available in bots today on your control rooms if they are on release 35. Inside of API tasks, these packages will be available starting A.36 release.
Okay, and an anonymous attendee asks, apart from looping through Outlook season, how can I use, sorry, I think they meant Outlook session. How can I use the message ID from Outlook web trigger to work with any Outlook activity, as there is no option to use the message ID?
Just reading the question. How can I use the message ID from Outlook to work with any Outlook activity as there's no option to use the message ID? There is an option to use the message ID. Message ID is part of the event payload that gets delivered to your automation when we receive the event from Outlook. Message ID is part of that payload. So you can use that message ID in your subsequent bot actions to do any other automations like forward the email, save the attachment, reply, all those things.
Then, well, this isn't a question, but like it's more of a additional features, and I have saved this as feedback. So this question has been answered, Mitesh. Thank you for sending in your feedback. Okay. Are there any more questions for our speakers? Please feel free to let us know in the Q&A tab. I think a lot of these have been answered on chat as well.
Yeah, some of the questions do trigger task also appear. Yes, they do appear under historical, because any event which happens in A360 either gets polled in historical is all about automations or some of the export import activities. Or if you are creating users, or if you are creating roles and so on and so forth, it appears in the audit log. Most of the activities that you do in A360, either historical for automations or for audit log for other purposes.
Yep. We hope that's answered. If there are any questions, which, oh, Theo says no question, but this was a fruitful session. And maybe the second or third graders I attended. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Theo, for your feedback.
I think, Shreya, you should ask them what was the first greatest session they had. That's the benchmark for us for the next time.
Definitely. Let us know in the chat. Yeah. Okay, well, if anyone has any more questions, we are okay. If people don't have a question, okay, it's great session. Thank you for your feedback. And if we don't have any questions, then let us conclude this meeting. And over to Arjun.
Before we go, again, thanks so much for all the attendees. It's always a pleasure interacting with all of you, though it's over the chat or question and answer sessions. Me and Vineet may have talked to you virtually over Teams on some of the customer meetings, but your feedback is so very important to us. And at the same time, do stretch out the product, make use of the connector builders, make use of the API tasks and the web triggers, the dashboards, and so on and so forth, and keep the feedback flowing, because that is crucial for shaping the product. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Devi and Vineet, for sharing your insights, and to Shreya for helping us coordinate and schedule the session. And thank you for all the participants too for joining us. Some of you mentioned you really liked the session. Thank you for that feedback. So do let your other developer colleagues know that we host these sessions on a monthly basis. That way, they'll also get to join us, and we all learn together and share our insights and get your feedback as well. And on our Automation Anywhere University portal, we have recently launched Delta training for .35 release, and also a new skill booster on how to set up your COE manager. Please do check them out. And we'll be back with the next list of sessions. So we'll publish them on our community portal. So do stay tuned to join us for the next sessions. And we will share this recording with all of you. So you'll receive an email from our community team. Thank you, folks, for joining, and have a good rest of your day. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.